you when he does the old school bike videos compared to the new school stuff. So he does like old school downhill bikes versus new school downhill bikes, and he'll compare the times and stuff. It's actually amazing how close they are.
It's crazy again how high I look at some of the bikes and how high the bottom brackets were, and I just how ridiculous, a light bike was 45 pounds.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far they come. That's the first thing my buddy was getting back into. I was like, wait, what is a dropper post? Automatically comes back up. I'm like, holy crap, that's the best invention ever.
Right. That's
So,
fun.
so old man back in the bike.
Yeah, I barely got into it because I couldn't run for a little bit. My doctor let me bike,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw mountain biking, and I was like, well, can I do that? Is that too like jarring on me? And they were like, no, it's not that bad. And I've slowly gotten better with it, and I finally like 2 years ago I got cleared like 100% medically to do whatever I want again.
How long ago are you from soccer? How?
Ooh, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up messing up my spine pretty good. So that was the issue.
But clear now, and biking doesn't aggravate any of that. It's kind of
Yeah, no. I mean, my back's still a little stiff, so I'm definitely not going to be like the greatest mountain biker. But I mean, most trails. I mean, I've done a couple Black Diamond trails and not had any issues, so I figure I'm pretty good there.
again, unless you're a pro racer, it doesn't matter what you do out there. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
out
what I mean.
there.
The only thing that gets to me is if I'm in the saddle a long time.
Mm-hmm.
From being hunched over, that'll start wearing on me. Like we did a 18-mile ride up in Santa Cruz,
Yep.
and like the first 11 miles were all climbing, and probably by like mile 9, my back started feeling it. But then once we
Yeah.
were at the top, we took a second to get some water, eat a granola bar or whatever, and then the rest was all downhill, and it was fine.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird. Again, I used to race downhill, so to be out here with again, I grew up in New England, so it
Hmm.
was all rolling hills, and to be out here where everything is like a straight up climb or like a straight down descent. There's no
Yeah,
long rolling anything. You have to climb to enjoy mountain bike at all. So
yeah,
it's been quite a revelation the last year that I might like climbing.
right. Yeah, I definitely like when we get to the top because it's that like sense of accomplishment, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, for
So
sure.
I enjoy it as well. It just like I said, it can't be like extended periods of time. I'm pretty good around like 12 to 15 miles. That's
Mm-hmm.
like that's where I kind of sit at, and then anything past that, it's like all right, I need a break.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to do I like to do goals, and the racing this summer was one goal. So next year, my buddy's trying to get us to do the in Prescott, Arizona. They have it's called the Whiskey 50, and it's basically a 50-mile mountain bike ride race through the
Mhm.
mountains. I think it's at over the 50 miles. There's like 16,
Maya really is a cross
10,000 or
between,
16,000 feet
your
of
Saturday
vertical
morning
over the course of
cartoons
that.
with a little bit of,
Yes, it's
your
ridiculous. So it
spaghetti
looks good on paper, and I'm
westerns,
talking about
tossing
now.
with some
As we get
20
closer,
bucks into the seat,
I'll
and you
gonna
kinda
fake
get where
sprain
my
an
blood
ankle or
comes
something.
from.
Find some. Sounds terrible.
The underlying
Yeah,
theme
there's
for
one
most
ride
of the
that they
work
do
is
out
still,
here called the
it's a
chili
strong,
race,
it's in
and
every
you
piece.
basically
Even if
climb
it's
to the
not a
top, and then
piece.
you eat a bowl of chili, and then you have to climb like another 1,000 feet or something like that. It's like designed to make you throw up. But then the downhill's fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. So is this the chat that's on my window that's here in Zoom? Is that the chat we'll see, or is that you guys the chat you see is in Twitch?
You'll have to go to Twitch.
Yeah, it'll be in Twitch.
Yeah. Then you'll be able to see when people ask questions. If you want.
Let's make it happen.
Can anyone post the show notes in the Discord channel?
Totally.
Thank you. I would, but Ruby's seen my computer. Oh, you saw my computer.
Yeah, he saw it too.
All right.
I hope it's just the graphics card, because that would suck if it's something else.
I'm not good with computers. That's why I outsource.
I'll second that he's not good with computers.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys.
It's true. I had a buddy of mine actually build this one. I was working off of another one, and it kind of doing this sort of stuff was really demanding on it. And it had the option where I could put graphics cards, I can do all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, when I upgrade the graphics card, that's X amount of dollars. When I upgrade this, that's X amount of dollars. When I do this, that's X amount of dollars. I'm like, I could just build a computer for that. And I'm like, all right, well, I reached out to a buddy of mine, and I'm like, what could you do in this price range? And he's like, I could build you a monster of a computer if that's what you want to spend. And I said, do it. And he did, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
If you don't mind me asking,
everything.
what did your final price tag come in at? Because I feel like your computer is really good.
I never kiss and tell.
Oh, okay.
No. It was around 800, which is
What?
yeah, because Joe was really awesome. Ironic.
Which is one cord for an Apple.
Yeah, right. It's not even 800 and some change is not even enough to get an Apple monitor stand.
No.
Yeah.
But dude, this thing handles everything. My other PC running like having Discord, show notes, the browser, Twitch, Streamlabs, OBS, all that stuff running. It was running like anywhere from 40 to like 70% of my CPU.
Yeah.
And now I run at 3. So
Jeez.
this thing is way overpowered for what I use it for. But he's like this. He was great too because he shopped. He builds computers for a living. He's an IT guy, and he shopped around. It was luckily during a holiday season, so everything was on sale everywhere. So he sent me a list, and he's like, "Okay, I could get this from Newegg. I can get this. He's like, if we wait like 2 more days, this will go on sale. And he put it all together, and he never charged me for like a build fee or anything. It was just, you pay for the essential stuff, and I'll put it together. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, wicked cool dude.
Nice.
Wicked cool
Yeah.
dude. And Chris is in the chat. Awesome. Let me do this. I'll do a quick post. Then we'll get a rolling. And this one does have your name spelled correctly.
I don't want to be part of it then. That's boring.
I don't want that one, Joe. I
Yeah,
want the
I'm
one
David
where you put
I'm
an
David
R.
Lozeau now.
Show notes.
It's Lozeau, though, right? Am I
Yeah,
pronouncing that right?
Put a Z in there.
Yeah, Lozeau. Okay.
Lozeau. It's easier to go, imagine like it's L-O-Z-O, just Lozeau.
Lozeau.
Makes it easier to remember.
My wife was looking, because I have a few of your canvas pieces in my office, and she loves them, like
That's
absolutely
placement.
loves them. Oh, it is placement. I should put one of them behind me, that way it's right
Seriously.
there. I'll do it right now. But she always was like, who does those? And I keep showing her one, and it's one of your Western pieces. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the guy and the girl in like an embrace, and one gun smoking, and she's got the gun around the back. I can't remember the name of it, but
Love, Trust, and a Revolver, like one of the
Yes.
most stolen pieces of mine, the most memed piece, the most targeted China ripped off piece. Yeah.
really?
Oh man.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's on sweatshirts and it's on everything.
You know what? We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Into the body of it, because you've been in the business for so long, and just you just have such a broad scope of everything that you handle. With media, everything up and down for decades. That I really want to dive into that one, because another artist from the community that we're all part of, actually had a piece of theirs stolen or like taken and put onto a different platform, and people are using it and this and that. And I just wanted to see, ask, later on if you're impacted with your pieces too in that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would wager to say that I'm probably, because the artwork is so line art driven, it's easy to clip and posterize and rasterize and make it into a an EPS. So it's very easy to steal and print. This is before, in the last 5 years with digital printers getting so easy, they could just steal JPEG and print it. So that blew up in the last 5 years. But even before that, since I started all the line work besides Tattoo Guys, it was also on everything. It's been stolen. I have a wall behind me of it's basically things that I've gone after people for. Like you can see behind, over my head, like those are motorcycle seats.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go after a guy who was making them. There's art over on the backside, which is all a whole booth at a swap meet was all my stuff. You know, they just took a color slider and just print all these different shades of the same artwork. I mean, it's been for years, from big deal like custom painted cars, $100,000 cars at show cars,
Oh
or
my gosh.
in magazines. You know,
What?
that go after that stuff. So it's been it took a long time to understand how to deal with it, because every time I was like, murder everyone when it happens. I had to like learn to, you know, the proper channels, and you can't stop it. You know, the more I put myself out there, you know, 15 years of work, it's all able. It's every search result comes up with something of mine, and in some of this, you know, bandito skeleton work. So it's just the way that it is, and I have to learn how to deal with it, and when to get involved, when to not get involved, and again, all we can cover any of that stuff, but it's a deep subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll touch on it for sure.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. You know what, I love your samurai pieces too. I mean, you can go a friend of all of ours, Bellamere. She loves your art, and she first exposed me to it last year or about 2 years ago. She picked up a piece of yours, and I was just like floored, like, oh my God, that is gorgeous. And ever since then, I've just like, I don't want to get a print or anything like that. I want, you know, the canvas. You know, I love the feel of the canvas. I love how they just look and just bring everything around. And a lot of the pieces that I have in my office, I'm surrounded by pieces throughout, you know, various artists in our community, inside and out. And it's a canvas piece is just almost rare these days. So so I absolutely adore the textures and the feel of them and how they look and everything. And I am gonna put one up behind me right now, actually. So,
and you're actually in you're in an outhouse, right? Because that's what it looks like.
Yeah. I moved back in January of this year, and when we moved, we looked for a house that actually pretty much had an office just for all my goodies and stuff. So
perfect.
The office that I have now is actually separate from the house. It's actually it's a completely like insulated, finished like front porch, and this office is off the side, kind of like a 3-season room. And I have like a DJ booth window like right here that looks into the dining room. So my wife and I'm like, you know what, I can close this off, make a whole wall, and then like knock this out and put a door in. She's like, no, I like it the way it is, because I can just come and tap on the window and you can see me, and my girls can line up right there and everything. She's like, perfect. This is
like, let's keep you behind the glass, right there, like on display.
Yep. This, come look at Joe. You know,
Don't feed the animals.
Yep. Bring Twizzlers, but
yeah.
But the bad thing is the air conditioner is located on the other side of this door.
Well, it doesn't matter to you. Yeah, it doesn't matter to them. That's why, like, yeah, it's good. You stay right in there. We're all set.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to
and
get you
cook.
one of those blinking live things, like in the radio stations.
I was gonna wire one in if I put the door right there.
Yeah, no, that's what we got to get you now.
You do need like a pink glow coming from the side.
Yeah, something, right?
Something, yeah.
Okay. I usually never turn my overhead light on.
It does look like a place where you would write a manifesto.
It's my happy place. It's just so warm in this office. My face feels so red right now because of.
That's too weird. That's too weird. Go back the way it was.
You're killing me.
It's freaking me out.
All right. I like my dark.
Yeah, go with what you don't let me change that.
Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, Dave's in chat. All
I can
right.
figure
Before
out
we
stuff.
before we get started, I gotta know: did the king snake come back? Because I was stalking your
Oh yeah, that's
Twitter there for a
right.
little bit.
I have been wandering. So my snake grabber just came today, which I'm very excited about. So I can actually remove him. Last time it was just basically um, two like trash can lid kind of things, trying to just get him and a bucket. But he did not come back. I've been walking the perimeter every hour on the hour. I just want the birds to fly away. As soon as they're gone, he can have run of the house because
Right.
they're fiercely territorial. My friend's a science teacher. He's explaining. He's like, "Oh yeah, you'll have that forever. Like he doesn't go away. Like you leave, he stays, kind of thing." Um, so as long as the birds go away, I think within 3 or 4 days they'll be gone, and then it's all yours, sir. Have the place,
That's funny.
which is
Yeah,
good because we have. He was telling me that they'll eat rattlesnakes, like
yeah.
the same length of
Really?
them. They're not. Yeah, they.
Oh
He's,
yeah, they're
they're
really
huge and
aggressive.
venomous, so yeah, they're super. So He's beautiful too. I hate snakes, but he is beautiful, so he can stay.
I feel you there. I can relate to that. One of my closest friends, he lives out North Cali now. Um, Eric, he lived out here in upstate New York. He had two king snakes as pets. And that mean freaking guy would come out. We'd be playing games or doing something in the kitchen. I'd be out there with his wife Sarah, or we'd be outside, and he would come out with one of the snakes. And they were like domesticated. They were
Which is what
super
Snake
gentle.
Guy does. Snake Guy
And
always
he
wants to
would
do
put
that.
it on my shoulder, and he's like, "Don't move, Joe. Don't move. Don't move." And he
He hates when
knows
you
that
move.
I'm like petrified of snakes. I cannot. Nope. Nope. And yeah, he would torture me with those things quite often.
Oh yeah, I was again. It goes back to the biking. I had never run into snakes in New England. I mean, my whole life I think I saw like garter snakes. Out here I see a rattlesnake every ride almost.
Yeah.
I found a rosy boa. First time I ever seen one of those, like a silver snake. They're beautiful. I saw that a couple weeks ago. So I'm so used to moving them off the trail. I've just gotten over it, kind of.
Yeah.
Now I'm like the everywhere. Everywhere I go now, I'm like Mr. Snake Man. Like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like grab them. Or apparently this is how it goes now. My own
One of the
personal
last
hell.
times I went riding, probably the biggest rattlesnake I've ever seen. This thing was easily 4 feet. It was huge, and he was just minding his own business. But it was one of those things where it was like he's a little too close to the trail for my liking.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and it's someone the dog walks around, so I always try and scoot them off. But it's like, yeah, my worst.
Yeah.
Why'd it have to be snakes?
Yep.
I've only encountered in upstate New York. I love going rock climbing and traditional. I used to go out to the Gunks out in New Paltz, New York, and the Catskills. One of the awesome climbing in the area, and I almost stepped on a copperhead. Copperheads are really abundant in New Paltz and on those cliff lines. And I was checking out a crack to climb for the three of us, and I get up to the crack and I'm feeling it out, and one of my buddies goes, "Don't move." And one of my friends, Pete, is a guide for Eastern Mountain Sport, and I would travel out there like once a year, twice a year, and go climbing with him. We'd hang out. I'd spend the night at his house, and he's like, "Don't move." He's like, "There's a copperhead," and it was a baby right next to my foot. And he's like, if that bites you, it's going to be worse than the adults because they don't know when to stop. And he shooed it away. He got it away, and he called a ranger, and they relocated it. We got to the top of the climb, and there was a nest. I'm like, great. And there were
Helicopter,
adults
please.
up there. Yep.
Yeah, I need a helicopter. I'm done for the day.
I got really accustomed to seeing copperheads out in New Paltz, and yeah, those are a lot of fun, especially when you don't like snakes. So I can only imagine with a 4-foot rattlesnake or like a 6-foot king snake would be like to my heart, because I would probably die, or I'd run. You'd see a 6'3" bearded guy run like the Flash in the other direction.
I'll start taking videos for you. They're fun.
Nope, I'll hate you forever. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, any questions on the show notes before we start? We already started recording, so we're good to go there.
We're good. Everything seems to work. I got everything.
Yeah, Zoom's really user friendly. I love our experience with it so far. We used to do Discord for everything, and now we use Zoom. Ruby and her husband actually let us use and practice on theirs, and now we use it all the time. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, because again, I've used I think I had got a Twitch account years ago, didn't use it. All my streams usually done through either Facebook or Instagram. That's where most of my crowd is. But I'm always looking for new ways. I should stream more. I just don't, I tend to paint and go, oh, I should have recorded that. I get caught up and I go, oh, that would have been fun to watch.
That's very true.
I feel you there. All right. We're gonna do just a quick 1, 2, 3 clap just for a marker, so I know when we actually start diving into things, and then we'll go right into it. We'll do a little brief intro, and then we'll have some fun. I can only imagine when we get to the fun fact and the 60-second challenge. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So 1, 2, 3 clap, and then we'll clap, and then we'll go right into it. I'll do a brief intro.
All right.
Okay? Awesome. All right. Get my hands ready.
Pressure all of a sudden.
No pressure. It's going to be the same thing. It's just we're just clapping, and that's going to be it. Stretching's important.
Yeah.
All right.
Rule number 2.
What's number 1?
I forget the zombie survival rules. Don't ask me these questions.
You just became one of my favorite people.
You know what I was talking about, right? With Zombieland.
Yeah. Zombieland 2 will be coming out later this year, just so you know, FYI.
No way.
Really?
Woody
Double tap away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Original cast and everything. I'm a big movie.
excited.
Because they have nothing else to do, let's be honest. They're pretty available right now.
I don't know. Woody Harrelson's career is taken right back off now.
He just keeps doing this.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You think he's dead, and he comes back again like Rocky.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Rambo, another one.
I'm sure he'd appreciate that comment.
Yeah.
And we'll apologize in a letter later when he tunes in.
Right.
He'll finally catch
Stop
up.
rambling, he said. Let's go.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you, David. Center me. All right.
Wasn't me. Chris.
Oh, Chris.
Stop rambling.
Don't listen to Chris. Thanks, Chris. All right. So clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Clap.
Oh, it's early.
We nail it every time.
Yeah, that's good. I
Also-
clap on 1.
I'm pretty sure I was delayed. I think I waited an extra second after.
I definitely
Okay,
did.
Ruby.
We should do it again. This whole thing's blown already. You should just log off and come back later.
We're off the rails. No, we're good. We're good.
Let's go. Yeah. Anyway, let's start. Intro.
All right. I'm working on it. No. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Pixels After Dark with us. I'm one of your hosts, Joe. With me, as always, is Pixelated Traveler Ruby.
Hello.
And also the amazingly interesting and handsome and Tyler. No, I had nothing else
I
to
thought
go
you were
with.
going to say David. You can't
I was gonna
throw
jump
a
in there like,
curveball like that.
No.
Finally. My intro better be amazing then.
Right?
There's nowhere to go now. Just take all the time. There's nothing left.
And with us tonight, we're not alone. We actually we have. There's no words to describe how talented this man is and how just wide
Try a few. Let's
spectrum
go.
this amazing individual and artist and sculptor and illustrator and media and downhill bike rider, and he does it all, folks. And with us tonight is David Lozeau.
Thank you, guys.
I said it
No,
right.
Lozeau, but it's okay.
Lozeau.
It's all right. It's early. It's only the first 1 minute.
Yo, we practiced.
We did practice.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
Welcome to your first show, Joe. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, David. And David will be taking over as host. So tune in next week for episode
Where's that
13.
mute button? Yeah.
No. Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight, David. It's truly an honor to have you on with us. You're just so talented, and your art. I actually have some of your pieces in the office. I wanted to bring some forward and show everybody just some of the canvas
Yeah.
pieces. There's the lever action.
I'm a little jealous now.
Me
And
too.
there's a few of these, and we'll be getting more in the future here soon.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I think it's again honored you guys to have me on. It's fun to have your granddad come talk about art, so it's fun to be here and share a little bit. So I'm excited.
I like how he's under 50 and he's calling himself.
You saw me get the
It's like,
computer
I'm
ready,
so
you'd be like, "Yes,
old."
granddad."
so what's everybody been up to? Just kind of ease into things. Ruby, what have you been up to? You do anything exciting in the last weekend or so?
I don't know. Are you asking me for a reason?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I just got back from Orlando Guardian Con, and we had a blast. I got to meet so many people, so many artists that we've interviewed in the past, and there's nothing like that.
That's
Please
awesome.
come.
I'll be there next year for sure. I think Tyler plans on
Same.
being there.
Be there together.
Yep, that's gonna be a great time. And yeah, our last episode we had 18 artists that were all hosting booths down in Orlando this past weekend, and it was really great seeing the Twitters and socials explode with how everybody had just a great time. It was great seeing everybody's booth set up and people, visiting the con, visiting each of the booths, and just their interactions with everybody was really cool. But yeah, I can't wait till next year. Next year it's going to be called Gaming Community Expo.
Yeah.
So they're growing exponentially each year. So it's really exciting. And Tyler, what have you been up to?
So I was up in Santa Cruz for 4 days doing a little bit of training, but also I got to have a little vacation at the same time. So that was lovely because I haven't had a vacation in like a year and a half. It's just been work like 6 days a week. So that was amazing. I think I slept for like 8 hours one day. It was great.
Yeah, and then you went hiking. I saw some pictures that you posted, that some really gorgeous trails that you were on.
Yeah, Santa Cruz, if people aren't familiar with California, Santa Cruz is like the epitome of where Southern California and Northern California meet. So you get the best of everything, right? You get SoCal beaches where it's nice and sandy and pretty water, and it's all what people think of when they think of California. But then you also get all the redwood forest, the mountains, everything that's used to all the rain and stuff that happens up there. So me personally, if anyone ever wants to visit California, I suggest visiting like Central Coast California rather than SoCal or NorCal, because it's the best of everything.
I've never made it to California before. I've been up and down the East Coast into the middle of the U.S. and just never made it to the West.
There's like 100 cons. Just pick one and come out.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
true.
I had plans to come out to Seattle for PAX West, but some other more important things came up, and squaring those away to get us set for next year. But next year, I'm definitely planning on coming out. But one of these days, I got to make it to that San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh,
San Diego's cool.
Scary even thinking about. It's just a couple weeks away. It's already freaking me out.
Are you attending, David?
I have a booth. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. This will be my 3rd year with the booth.
that's a
Nice.
day trip for me. So
Tyler will be coming to visit.
might be coming down.
I'll be there demoing, live painting the whole time. But again, this is for us. It's a huge event because you bring down your stuff on Monday. You go set up on Tuesday, preview nights Wednesday, and then just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's just all out the whole time. So it's a crazy event. I was on the waiting list, I think, for 7 years to even get in.
Ooh.
Because just the list. So it's just, now that we're here, it's kind of, that part's relaxing, but it's still, I do shows. I've done tons of shows. This one still has its own unique spin. I mean, the whole world just kind of revolves around this. And it's changed from when I used to go 10 years ago, and it was really kind of movie dominated. And now with all the original content, these different media outlets are making, it's kind of spun off into its own, it's a Game of Thrones area. It just kind of really has its own kind of feeling now. It's kind of changing, but it's still, there's nothing like it. It's just out of control. It's a lot. It's just a lot.
Yeah. The Artist Alley, last time, wasn't it a whole floor by itself?
It's a whole, it's a whole
Yeah.
big, And then I kind of like to sneak away from my booth, and I go sneak over there and see some of the guys I love to follow and kind of, mosey around and kind of watch. I love to watch art being made. So to be able to kind of incognito look around and watch people do what they do and watch some of the sculptor stuff. I love watching that. It's really fun for me. I'm actually one who goes, I'm going to the bathroom, and then I'm gone for like, an hour and a half just sneaking around looking at stuff. So it's a fun event for sure.
That is awesome. So you've been prepping for that?
Kind of all year, because like emails start like the day after the year before, like, everything from parking, it's all so big that you're doing checkpoints throughout the year, almost for Comic-Con. So I got it down pretty pat, but I've been doing small originals that I'll bring for the show, because I have my normal setups to 10 by 20. I can only get a 10 by 10 for Comic-Con, so it's a little smaller, so I can't have my big originals. I got to have some small ones. So I'm kind of doing some custom pieces for the show. So we're getting ready for that, and kind of deciding what I'm going to paint, because it's so much painting time. Basically Wednesday night and all day Thursday, Friday, all those days. So I just paint the whole time. My girlfriend runs the booth because she's way better than me, so she makes it all look great and work. And I just paint in the corner, and so I need something to paint. And usually I'll probably have 4 or 5 pieces ready to go. I may only get to 3 of them or 2 of them, but I want emergencies, because I can't just sit there doing nothing. So I got to have grab the next one, put on there, and get to work, because it's just kind of, I can talk and paint during a show. It doesn't bother me at all. So it's kind of how I relax. It's just painting and talking. So this is much harder than that.
Do you like interacting with people that are visiting the booth while you're painting? Do you enjoy interacting with all the people coming through?
It's never been an issue for me. I can just chit chat away and talk and paint at the same time. It's funny. We've had on the road doing this for so many years. I mean, I've had the weirdest things. I've had fights break out behind me. I had a gas explosion a couple booths down, and I just didn't flinch. Like I just paint. I'm like, back to, it's just, I'm just in the zone. I can talk, and it's just kind of what I do if it wasn't at the show, I'd be in the studio doing the same thing. And I find it actually easier to paint with people walking all around than in my studio alone. In the studio, I'm playing with my phone. I'm playing with the dogs. I'm all distracted. You put me in front of, an event, I'm locked in. I'm painting for, 8 hours, with maybe 1 potty break, and then get to work.
I've seen your YouTube is amazing. I don't know who makes all the intros and stuff like that, but I absolutely love all the videos. You do? Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You're a
I used to be a graphic
trades.
designer before all this.
Really?
I was a designer, so I kind of didn't realize I was kind of building that Batman utility belt of skills you need as an artist. Photoshop, Illustrator, doing all that kind of stuff, doing video editing. I did all that professionally years and years ago. So I kind of went, oh, this is how you make it work and make an artist look good. It's kind of having that. And my girlfriend came from a marketing background, so she knew how to, just kind of had, her and I were like this, agency that we were able to kind of do for the art. So we had experience in business and kind of applied it to the art and kind of built a brand, in that way. And it was natural to us in that way.
So
it's really cool.
Some people that are going to be listening and that are, tuned into the live stream might not be too familiar. Could you give maybe a little bit of background about yourself, like how you got your start? Like, were you always interested in art growing up, and just developed it over time? Like,
I was the kid in school drawing skulls on books. I was on desks, and anything I could draw on as a kid. Always, you're not going to go anywhere with that kind of, being told by adults. But always into art. My aunt was a graphic designer. So that was the first art I knew you could do as a living. So I kind of, in high school was really attracted by that, because everyone told me you can't be an artist. No one draws and makes a living. Right. So I kind of, I did the graphic design thing. That was my goal. And took fine art classes in college. I have a fine art minor, and did, all the classes. Didn't take any painting classes, which is ridiculous. I took sculpture, all the drawing classes, but no painting classes. So I got out and didn't draw or paint or anything for about 7 years. Kind of design was fun, but as you start to work a long time, at the 8-9 year mark of design, it was boring. I knew what to do. It didn't fill the bill anymore. So I started to finally sketch a little bit, play with paints. And I was like, oh, that's that creative thing that I'm missing, that I haven't had in design. And just started doing that, and putting stuff together. And my girlfriend's like, okay, you got to do something with this, because you got piles of junk now you've made, so get rid of it. Either paint over your canvases. It was a great conversation, because she's like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. Either you paint over your canvases and stop buying supplies, or you go to a street fair and you go sell this stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll go try and sell, I guess. See how this
works. You're like, don't ask me to paint over things.
Seriously, I'm like, no.
Kind of blasphemy.
Exactly. But we started with like, farmers markets where I'm next to a vegetable guy and I just got my prints laid out on the table. Like I have 3 prints, at that point, and they're in plastic cases with 3-ring binder holes because I didn't know you're supposed to use like plastic sheets that are all fancy with backers. So I have like 3-ring binder, laid on the table in a camping chair, just like, here's my art, everybody. This is what I do. And amazing she got behind the art back then. But we just, nights and weekends at my day job, making work, just basically did all this, doing small hot rod shows, doing tiki shows. It's kind of how I cut my teeth in the beginning, was coming to the hot rod tiki scene in Southern California, sculpting, carving tikis, all this creative, just overwhelming, coming out of every pore. I wanted to draw, I wanted to sculpt, I wanted to do all these things. Kind of like just a second life almost. And I realized I didn't want to do design anymore. This is what I loved. How do I do this and not do that anymore? And just, it started that road of day job versus art, and how do I make it work? And so nights and weekends, at lunchtime, at my day job, I'm drawing on my sketch pad, I'm staying late because I told them I had to have a Wacom tablet for design. So they got a Wacom tablet for me for design. I'm like, okay, whatever. And at night I would just draw on that, just learning how to, digital and being in love with that. And it just kind of started that tumbling of just doing shows, trying everything, tattoo shows, car shows, different small cons, different art festivals, art fairs. I mean, I think we did one year upwards of 30 shows in a year. I mean, just astronomical amounts of shows. I think we've dropped 50 shows that I did at least once. I mean, it's amazing the number of stuff we did. And it's kind of led to all this.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot of stuff.
And I know a lot of people, personally, I know a lot of people that actually struggle with that balance right now. They're at that point in their lives that they're doing the day job and they're doing the art, and they're trying to, they know what their passion and their drive is for, but they have to pay their bills. So they're at that crossroad right now where they're trying to transition to do what they absolutely love to do and break away from the day job so they can do that. And go ahead.
No, and it's tough because you're so susceptible to making poor choices. You're vulnerable because you want to make it work. And you're like, oh, what's sold? If I do more of the things that sell, then I can get rid of this job soon. And I made all those mistakes. And you get clouded with what your artistic vision is versus how can I sell art to not be at a day job anymore? And it's a really hard thing to walk that line where you're growing as an artist, doing your style, doing what you want, and not just doing what sells, because those are often not the same thing.
You're absolutely right. And it's one of those things that every aspiring artist will have to go through at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm really interested, really excited to, dive into the core of, our questions and everything for David here. And I think the perfect person to take it away there would be Tyler.
All right. So
I'm terrible at transitions, David.
Man, he is the best host. I can see why he's in charge.
I edit it all out.
I didn't see any of this in the other ones. Man, he must be having a bad day.
That's funny. No, I think what a lot of artists get caught up in is what to draw and how to draw it and things like that. Do you do a lot of research for projects, or do you kind of just let your creativity flow and go for it?
So and that's another thing as an artist, because I do a lot of historical pieces and things, they're nested in realism. I hire reenactors for like my military stuff, so that I know all the equipment is correct. I go on site. I've flown around different museums in the country because they had, I went all the way to New Hampshire because I was from there, and part of my trip was to go film pictures of one of the tanks that was at the bridge at Remagen in World War II, because it was a tank from there, and I wanted to capture that tank. Because if you don't take the extra effort to research your stuff, the person who knows that, will point out that bolt's in the wrong place. You know, I want them to be thrilled with that I got everything right, you know, especially with the modern military stuff. When I do stuff for veterans, I want it to be exactly how they imagined it. I don't want it to look like a video, I nicked it up a video game. I want it to look like that real world situation. So I try and really invest time and effort to research, try and find stories if I can relate to someone who's been in a situation that I'm painting. If it's armor for a Viking, then I try and really research it. I try to find stories I can tell that are interesting from a different angle. You know, usually it's dark humor, or it's really heroic. You know, some of these themes I can kind of carve out, I try and find in these stories. But for me, I think research and making it accurate is very important, because the person who loves that item, it could be World War II tank, it could be an airplane, it could be a gun. The person who owns that thing and cherishes and loves that item and can relate to it, it will be thrilled that I've done it properly. You know, that I'm really showing off what's important to them. And to me, that interaction is very important to get things right. I've done pieces, I have a B-17 piece, and I had 2 pilots from Arizona who were part of the Commemorative Air Force, and they maintained a B-17. And they were standing behind me as I was painting, and they're covering their shirts, and they're asking me questions about the B-17, quizzing me a little bit. I could tell something was up. And they're like, do you know what this is and what year that would be? I'm like, well, it's early model. I'm trying to explain to them. They're like, okay. And they put their hands down. It says, flight crew for the B-17. And they thanked me for taking the extra effort to know what I was painting. And I could tell they appreciated that I didn't just pick a picture online and Google search and then just paint that object. I took time to learn about the guys. I talked to 2 pilots who flew the planes. Those moments I think are like a side benefit to the art that I never thought about, that has been amazingly rewarding to talk to people who been touched by some of these pieces or can relate to them, to learn from these stories.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I know personally, the first time I saw your work, the Western stuff just blew me away, because I'm a huge Western fan. So just all the different props that you have in the paintings, different models of guns and things like that, the dynamism of the poses and stuff, all of that stuff was just really exciting to see. And you could tell that you definitely put the time and effort to make sure the time period was right with what you were painting.
I have a wall of rubber guns behind me, props that movie props that I've gotten, because my girlfriend is probably the model for half of my pieces. Like, I've had her with a hatchet in one hand, with her mom held down, reenacting a scene to capture some of that action. So yeah. I think for me, that's how I work best, is to see, so I can see the lighting, I can see the pose, I can move them around, I can compose with the camera to find the most dynamic angles. I think it's all part of how my brain just, filters. The story gets worked out. It's like, okay, turn, okay, now I'm kind of, that's what I want. I need more energy. I'm a close cropper. I'll cut arms and legs up. I'll cut, because I like energy. So I'll really zoom in on some of the crops, and that's all done at that planning stage.
Yeah. Well, just that piece that Joe showed a little bit earlier, that's a Winchester rifle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, how zoomed in it is to where it really is just maybe 3/4 of the torso, and then the gun's the main focus. But I don't know, the way you crop that is fantastic to me, because it works the way the canvas is.
Even how the casing comes out of the lever action is how the casing, because I have a lever action. I have a Marlin, and it comes out the exact same way.
I was geeking out over the hand position on the lever, because I was like, it looks like someone's pulling the lever. Like,
so that gun is in my house. I own that gun. So the way it started is I went to a cowboy action shoot because I wanted to do some Western stuff. I'd done a few pieces, but I had ideas in my head, and I was going there to basically hire reenactors. So I get there, I'm just talking to them, and they basically are like, "Hey, you should shoot." And they start handing me stuff. I'm like, "Whoa, this is your stuff. I don't want to." Like, no, shoot the stuff. And I was like, "Ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding. I love it. I want all this." So like 2 weeks later, I'm in full Western gear now with I have my Nacho Gringo is my shooting name. I got a full sombrero hat. I'm at the event, and I love it. They're super nice. I mean, they're all like 95 years old. They're so welcoming and fun. But that got me hooked on it. So that piece came from one of those reenactments. I was shooting photos, and I'm like, oh, let me try, because his hand, I love the way it kind of flew. It was so light.
Yeah.
I love how it looked on there. I was like, let me capture that moment. I must have shot like 200 times trying to get the angle that I wanted, moving around, but it all comes from those kind of moments. And that was one of those moments where a small plan kind of turned into a hobby for a couple of years, where I did that every one Saturday a month. I would go and shoot with those guys, which was so much fun to be around those old school weapons, and just to see the poses, because you're watching everybody shoot and you can't help but, be creative and have other, scenes that kind of boil out of those moments.
Right. And that's awesome. I love that all your art kind of has this small story behind it because of the research that you put in.
Yeah, and it's for me. It's funny. I do tons of research. I'm not a big reading book guy, but that's how, for me, diving into these mini stories is kind of like my book reading. It's just
Right.
just gathering piles of information is kind of, that's my little story, my little traveling, my little journey.
No,
Very cool.
Speaking of
Sounds
journey,
Harry Potterish, but that's my journey.
Harry Potter quote. I'm a Harry Potter fan, so I'm leaving that in.
I'm leaving that in.
No, I was going to ask actually. During your journey, speaking of journeys, a lot. I won't say all your pieces, but a lot of your pieces incorporate Day of the Dead. And one of the most unique things about all the pieces is you're capturing it as every subject is a skeleton. If there's a subject in it, like the lever action, it's a skeleton dressed in the period times shooting. A lot of the underwater ones, the westerns, the military ones, they're all skeletons. What drew you to do capture Day of the Dead pieces like this?
So I grew up on the East Coast, and I never even heard of Day of the Dead. I wasn't exposed to that kind of celebration of remembrance. When someone dies on the East Coast, you drink whiskey, you have a wake, and then you don't talk about them again. And I came to California and was exposed to Day of the Dead in the celebration, and I was jealous. I didn't have a celebration, a time where we could talk about our loved ones that passed. You didn't talk about what they loved to drink, what they loved to listen to for music. There wasn't that kind of connection. I was just enamored with the pageantry, the colors, just this beautiful experience celebrating the life of someone, but the imagery of these skeletons. And I was just drawn to that at a part in my career where I was kind of searching for what my voice would be, and it clicked. It was like, that's what I am. That's what I want to capture. And for me to have the skeleton, you don't get caught with, is it white, is it black, guy, girl, blue eyes, brown eyes. You just see cowboy, like the one behind you. It's lever action. That's all you see. You're not complicating it. You're able to tell a story about the honor of the moment rather than being bogged down with the individual. And for me, that just kind of was able to capture and resonate. And I knew I didn't want to do flower face girls like the traditional Dia stuff I was seeing
like
people
the
do.
Sugar skulls and stuff.
Exactly. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to, tell a story and take this beautiful ceremony and tradition and apply it to other cultures, other moments in time and history, to military. I wanted to really expand on that idea. And the more I traveled to Mexico for Day of the Dead, it was everything I hoped it would be. They were so welcoming, being in a cemetery and sharing these moments and these families. I just couldn't help but want to be an ambassador for it, want to talk about it and explain. And it's been, my house looks like this, I have skeletons everywhere. I love that imagery and living for the day and capturing that moment and just, celebrating the ones in the past. It's been my direction from the day I found that, and it's still what I want to do.
That's really cool.
That is great. And I personally can't thank you enough for doing that. I mean, even the multiple cultures that you actually go across in the I don't want to say genres, but the different time periods and everything. I love the samurai ones. You did a lot of Japanese culture, and the poses that these samurais are in their full armor is just so amazing to just see it in that way, remembering, because there's one particular piece that one of the samurai ones where he's holding his katana up high and he's coming down and he's looking down, and it's like it makes me reflect to that time period. You're not trying to capture the person, with their facial features and everything like that, and getting their face, and adding skin and texture and everything and making it a person, but it being as a skeleton, it to me, I translate that as like, this is the culture back then, and don't focus on the person, but focus on the action and the culture of samurai, essentially.
Exactly. The purity of that moment,
right?
Yeah. And that translates, if you look at and to me, capturing the honor of that samurai is the same as capturing the honor of a World War II soldier or a modern soldier or the cowboy. It's that purity of the moment. You know, it's looking at that moment in time, that instant. They're not dead in this picture. I'm capturing this moment going on, and that's, and for me, I love that, because those, while they're totally different, you know, samurai versus the cowboy, to me, they're so much the same. That honor, that code, you know, that travels through the art. I think like that they're all kind of related in that way.
Right.
No,
I love that.
It's a really good point. I think that helps with the overall emotion of the pieces. I think you connect with it on a higher level than just it being someone that you're looking at.
Yeah, and when you dabble in another culture that isn't yours, you have to be very sensitive. When I started doing this, I was not sure this was going to work. I wanted to make sure that no one ever thought I was poaching another culture that wasn't mine, that I was profiting, that, you know, any kind of reason. So I made sure to immerse myself and again, speak to the most rewarding experience I ever had was early in my career. I mean, this is maybe 2 or 3 years in, I'm at a little booth, and this little old lady comes over, and she's Mexican, and she calls me over, and she's crying, and she's hugging me and thanking me for doing her culture justice. For just
That's awesome.
And that type of reaction is I've gotten my entire career, and it's made me so happy that I could be. This is before Coco, before Book of Life, before everyone had a real grasp of what Day of the Dead was. I was just this creepy guy drawing skeletons for years. So to have her feel that way just kind of empowered me to continue to be the ambassador for the holiday and explain to people when they would walk by. Because I mean, when you do street fairs, you get knee-jerk people's feelings. They say it right out loud. They don't see me painting. I'm like invisible. And they'll be, you know, good and bad, you hear everything. So a lot of times I was explaining to people why this isn't morbid, why this isn't death pictures or whatever else they thought it was. So I'm so connected to it because I was defending it for so long. So for me, it's almost like to see the kid grow up now. The Coco and Book of Life, people know what it is, and people know, you know, understand. They tell me about it. It's like, I'm like, yeah, tell me some more. It's just so great to hear people talk about it. So it's amazing to see a culture that people can appreciate, you know, that it isn't being lost. And again, all those things come with issues when cultures become overexposed like this, and there's always downsides to it. But for me, to pay homage and have people understand it, somebody has to keep it going and connect with it. So to me, if you honor and respect a tradition, it doesn't have to be your own. You know, it could be something you expose yourself to. And I'm really inspired by that idea, and my work kind of resonates throughout that.
Yeah. Chris in chat said it's validation. I think that's a good point too, because it kind of does reaffirm that you're doing what you love, but doing it well as well, which is
Thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
That also backs up why it's so important to research your topic.
Yeah.
I take nothing lightly. I think for me, the most sensitive I always am is with the military stuff. Because I know I've done pieces for families who've lost soldiers. I've been there for tearful handoffs of original artwork, where I've handed the artwork of their father to the son because the father's gone. I've been there for those moments that I didn't know art would give me. You know, nothing prepares you to give family heirloom to a family. You know, I didn't know that would be part of what I did. It's been amazingly rewarding. I do not take it lightly. I love capturing those moments. I pick and choose those projects really carefully to make sure that I can do what they, you know, the best for that project. I want them to, you know, have this thing. And
yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing an artist did. Like, no one tells you in the art school that, hey, here's a side benefit. You may cry when you hand a painting over. Here's why. You know, they don't tell you that stuff. It's amazing, and I'm amazingly honored that someone would want me to capture, you know, that moment. It's a very personal moment.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's a side of it that you don't hear very often.
Mm-mm.
You know, people tend to jump over that part and get to, there's my art. It's right there. You know, this is the basis of it. But the emotion that's involved and tied into the pieces, and especially when you're making an original piece that will be handed down through a family's lineage, like going down, is got to be very overwhelming right there. That's just amazing.
It's an amazing to be blessed with that kind of moment. You know, it's a weight I enjoy painting with. You know, those moments where I've done those commissions, I love them, because it's almost a new focus. It's another layer down that I can't get by painting for just myself. But when I paint with the weight of a family or the weight of someone's expectations of capturing this moment, it just, boy, it clears everything out. You don't see anything else but that. I mean, it makes it a very tranquil experience. It's just as enjoyable, but it's a much different feeling. You know, I want to do like I said, it's an heirloom. Like this son will have this of his dad, and he may be 10 years old now, but he's going to stare at this and have this for his entire life. You know, those are heavy weights to paint with, and I am honored to be able to be part of that.
I'm just looking through your pieces. What's your
Ruby searching?
No, it's just they're gorgeous, and I'm also looking at the titles, and they're so clever and fitting. Either they tell.
I love the titles, and it's always lost because people just like see images. They don't, and sometimes we work so hard in the titles, and you know, there's a lot of the images, and that's great. But like, I spent days crafting. You know, we go back and forth with titles, and we think we're funny, and then you know, it gets lost. It's in the back of the painting, so no one sees it.
It's so sad. They're great.
The one that sticks out the best to me that tells the story is the ambush, or ambush, which is
silent ambush. Mm-hmm.
Silent ambush. Yep. And that one, you can just see it in the piece, and they are very clever. A lot of them. What sort of research did you put into the? You have one that we used as a Twitter announcement is in space with two astronauts, you know, kind of like old school, like 50s
cosmonaut.
Yep. Yeah.
With the alien. Did you go to space?
I would have loved to. Yeah, again, I love sculpting, so I would have loved to have gone to WETA or some kind of school to see custom suits being made, but I couldn't arrange for that one. So sometimes you got to wing it.
Oh, that's funny.
It came out great. Tyler, do you want to bring us? Oh, Ruby, do you have a question?
Oh no, I'm just reading. I Clash in the Cosmos. Whoa! I just ran into it.
Oh, well, awesome. I think now that we've pretty much exacerbated research, one of the big things that I've noticed with your art, which is incredible, because I feel like most artists kind of stick to one medium that they're good at and that they enjoy, but you're all over the place. You know, you paint, I've seen digital art, you do sculpting, yada, yada. So how did you develop those techniques to be able to cover such a broad spectrum? And then if you could elaborate, like what kind of tools that you prefer to use and you know, what's your favorite medium kind of thing? Because like I said, you're one of the few artists I've ever seen that is all over the place. I mean, I feel like I could say, "Oh, you do this," and you say yes. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's always my advice to young artists is try everything. Don't fall in love with anything, because you may be the world's best pastel artist, and until you try pastels, you won't know. Mm-hmm. Try because my brain. So my primary means, you know, the main thing I do is the painting with acrylic, gouache, and enamel. Now, gouache is acrylics is my backgrounds. I do all the colors and layering with gouache, and the final stage is enamel. That's where all the line work goes in. Now, until I found enamel paint, it's like a sign painter's paint. Until I found that at a hot rod show, I was using acrylic, and the style wasn't clicking. But because I tried that medium, it literally birthed my direction and career. When I found the paint that could free my mind to paint quickly, absolutely opaque, it just let me explore the things I wanted to do. So it's important they try everything. That's my primary. I do pen and ink. I travel a ton. So for me, when I travel, I bring, I like to sketch. I don't sketch enough when I'm home because there's so many projects that tend to get in the way. But when I travel, I can really kind of focus. I'll travel sometimes with watercolors also. But I love to do pen and ink and watercolor. I love sculpture too. I've gotten back into that a bit more this year. It's been a couple of years off from that. But for me, I love sculpture because it's so frustrating to me. You know, I've been painting for 15 years. I know how things are going to look from my sketch. I have an idea. I know where the problems will be, the hard parts. Looking at the sketch, I go, oh, this texture here, that'll be a problem. I'll get to it. With sculpting, it's frustrating from the second I start till 1 second before I finish. Like, I don't have that confidence. I don't do it enough. So for me, I love that frustration that I don't get from painting anymore almost. So I'm like a masochist looking for this art frustration. Frustrated. And all these different mediums kind of feed that. I sketch digitally for all my work because it's just easier for me to move faster. I've done that for 10 years now. But really, those are basically the main core of what I use and what I like to do. But I'm an art nerd. I will pick out supplies I see, in the catalog. Some fancy new pen comes out. I gotta try that. I'm like a little kid in that way, where the toys I buy are art toys. That's what if I'm gonna spend too much money on something, then it's gonna be art stuff.
Are you self-taught in most of the stuff, or do you, like, when you started sculptures, did you take a class, or were you just like, I'm diving into this and seeing what comes of it?
Sculpture is basically completely self-taught. I had no really direction in that at all. Again, in art school, I took all the drawing classes, so I would say I have some kind of structure with that. Mm-hmm. No painting, but some structure. But sculpting, I think that's why it's so raw. It's it's that feeling I used to have painting 15 years ago that I don't have anymore, that maybe I missed that kind of pain. So I go looking for it in sculpture. But it's just such a different way when you take a piece and you have to have it match all the way around. With a painting, it's straight on and good. With a 3D, it's mind blowing. You're like, oh, people can look at it this way too? Crap.
Do you 3D model digitally as well?
I don't. I feel like I've missed the boat and it's too far now and everyone's too good.
I feel like I was going to ask that and you're like, yeah, here's my ZBrush catalog.
No, they got, I think for me, the tactileness, being a traditional artist so much, I do 99% traditional. So I enjoy that feel, that just the hand, the working, that kind of way. I wish Command Z was available, but that's the only plus, I think, for me, how my brain goes.
Very cool. Very cool. Someone in chat said his Fender guitar line is awesome.
Yeah, we did a line of guitars 2 years ago for Fender, full production line. So we did 4 different designs, and it was fun because it was kind of like we talked about, where there was different genres. There was a dragon piece. There was a traditional kind of Mexican Sacred Heart. There was a little more traditional Day of the Dead style art piece, where a little skeleton buried beneath the ground with a big tree with birds and a little swing, very artsy guitar. And then there was another guitar with a voodoo priest with a voodoo doll on it. So really, really fun stuff to do. And
that sounds cool.
Yeah, really great project. They got to go to all around. Got to go to NAMM, which is like the Comic-Con of the music industry.
Yeah.
So it's they could see the guitars and live paint there, and be around a whole crowd who didn't know me from the art. So that kind of stuff is really. It's like I did SEMA last year. To be in a different crowd that doesn't know you, but doing your art's really a fun experience, because people have no idea what's going on. Like, is this a circus performer? What is he going to juggle next? What is he doing here? So it's really fun in that way to be in a juxtapose where your art's gone. It's just you out front. It's very, street crew style.
Yeah. Well, what's nice with music is art kind of goes hand in hand with it as well. So it's kind of an easy transition for people that enjoy music to appreciate art kind of in the same way.
No, completely. Yeah. Hand in hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. You said you do acrylics and gouache and the enamel. What other tools do you kind of utilize? I know you said you use a Cintiq for digital. Are you on certain programs? Do you prefer like Photoshop over Procreate, or
Yeah, I do, because if I go to Procreate and if I have an iPad, I know that I won't. I like to have physical sketches.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have that kind of. So if I get Procreate, I won't do it anymore. So I'm making myself not get iPad, make myself sketch traditionally. But basically, I have a Cintiq 21-inch that I do basically black and white drawing in Photoshop. That is the limit of my digital. That's where I sketch everything. That's where I make everything. But that's it. Then once it's done, I basically print off that. I paint my background. I use graphite transfer paper to trace my drawing onto the background, and then I'm at it. They start painting from there, and I start with the gouache and just building up all the layers, and then onto the enamel.
Oh wow! So all your colored pieces, they're all traditional then, with gouache and acrylic and everything.
Oh yeah, I think there's. I'm trying to think of my site. I think I have no more digital pieces available. Yeah, I think they're all traditional. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
I'm just adding up the time it takes me to do a painting, and I'm like,
it's a lot of
that you've cranked out. Yeah, that's
insane. I think we do prints of 300 plus. It is a lot of work I love to paint. I paint quickly. Mm-hmm. when I do a show, I'm live painting at a show. So I'm painting every show. I'm doing a painting, and now we pulled back a little bit and don't do as many shows. But all those years, if I had a weekend show, there was one painting at least coming out of that show. I mean, I got to dive in and really sharpen my skills, sharpen my style, and really kind of, street style, get better and better because I was painting so much and still paint a ton. I mean, I'm at Comic-Con next week. There'll be, I think, like 40 hours of straight painting,
Right.
so there's a ton of work generated. And that's I love to do it. I get excited for that. Once the booth is set up, I'm not dealing with that anymore, and then it's fun.
Yeah. So how long, like from concept to finish, does a painting usually take you?
So let's say the Joe's lever action, something like that size there, which is on the small side for me. The size of his canvas print. So something like that, you're looking at probably, 15, 20 hours from beginning to end.
Well, that's actually pretty quick.
Yeah, I paint fairly fast because it's big blocks, and I just, because I'm left-handed, I work, the enamel goes from right to left, so I don't smear with my big stupid paw. But that's how it all gets put in. And the bigger pieces, tend to be, 24, 36 is kind of the bigger realm. I have some bigger pieces. That's kind of 1824 to 2436 is basically kind of where all my pieces are. At Comic-Con, I'll do smalls, which are kind of like, this big. Some of the, I can show you one. Please hold. It's not like a live show or anything. Like that's the kind of the smallest for Comic-Con. This kind of size things. So I find vintage frames, and I basically hoard them. I've been collecting for years, and I kind of create custom pieces kind of to the shape of the small frame. So
that's so cool.
Those are great for
yeah,
Comic-Con.
I noticed it on his Twitter. He had a cool like teardrop frame that you had built with like a heart in the middle of it and some Day of the Dead stuff. So I was wondering if you built your own frames. So that kind of answered that.
For the small frame, so the small frames, yeah, those are all reclaimed. The big frames that you see, they're all stylized on the site. Those are all custom builds that I do to match. But I want it to look like you built the frame from stuff from the painting.
Right.
Like my space one is built from it looks like a space door. It's all kind of using those pieces. The smalls are good because when I have a show in England at the end of August, the smalls are easy to carry. They're easy to ship. They're easy to kind of work. So Comic-Con and international shows, I tend to paint like that. And normal shows, it's the 24, 36 just kind of ballpark.
Gotcha. Well, that's kind of a nice little transition into something that we like to ask is any tips and suggestions for young artists. So with Guardian Con just passing, with a lot of people exhibiting for the first time, do you have any tips and suggestions for people that want to kind of break into being an exhibitor at a show?
Yes, I think it's first thing would be like investment in your look and feel, like in your own self. If you're willing to go to a show, you don't need 10,000 things. You have to start somewhere. Those cons are tough because you're like, they got to travel for them. They're big. My advice is to start with the farmers markets. Start with small art shows in your area. Get an experience. See what people like. Get the feedback on your art, so you know what to bring. What are people reacting to? Is it reacting to the colors, the light, the size? Your subject matter. Some artists, they have so much work and they want to bring it all. And we all have our own personal preferences. Doesn't mean it's what sells. It's what we like. So it's tough to be honest with yourself and make sure when you're bringing work there that you have, the best things to sell for you. The key thing is prints. You got to have prints. And for me, you got to have something in a $20 range, a $20 print of some size. That's a great spot because people can always have a 20. It's kind of a good spot to, share your art. It's a good size and lets people grow with your art. I've had people who 10 years ago bought a paper print, and then a couple years after that bought a canvas print, and then a couple years after that bought a small original, then a big original. They kind of grow with you as you grow as an artist. You got to give them that doorway so they can relate to you. Be who you are, be outgoing. You can't sit back there and be quiet. People want to know you. They want to know your art. You have to be yourself and learn to be. It's not easy. Some of us are motor mouths that can't shut up, and it makes it a little easier, but you still have to be chatty. You got to be yourself and share and tell people stories about why you're doing what you're doing and interact with them. Let them know you so they can know what the art is too.
That's awesome advice. So ratio wise, what would you say as far as like originals versus, like you said, those $20 print ranges kind of thing? Are you doing like 70 prints because those kind of fly off the shelf versus 3 or 4 originals kind of thing, or what are you looking at when you bring stuff?
it's changed. At this point in my career, I only have, besides those smalls I just did, I only have 4 originals. Out of all the work you've seen, there's only 4 left. They sell so quickly off the easel that I don't bring a lot to shows anymore. So I'm really a 90% prints, and if I'm using the original that sells will be the one I'm working on out front. And that's kind of how it works now. For my setup. Before, when I had more originals, it was always still a 80-20. You hope for original sale, but the original's there for you to see that I do the work traditionally, and for you to go, oh, they're all hand painted. Let me go look at the prints now. And they're there to show the prints. They're there to sell the prints basically with that work. It's kind of prints are always going to be your best seller. Originals are great. They're the yay surprise. It's awesome. I don't mean to trivialize how it's awesome when it happens. That was really a jerky. We would say that, but it's great if it happens. But you can't count on that. You can't go to a show with all originals and then sit there going, okay, hope that guy comes by who has a bunch of money to waste. You have to be able to be self-sufficient and then have that tier. And that's what I find. Digital artists, I'm not sure. I don't know how you grow to have that price point of an original. I know for me, as a traditional, you have that because there's always collectors who there's a collector who doesn't care about the number. There's a guy who wants, oh, it's numbered, awesome. Then they want a low number or a certain number. Then they want exclusive. Then they want a small original. Then they want a bigger. There's just steps to collectors. As a digital artist, you have hurdles that I don't have that you got to figure out how to do. Limited editions, you got to do special things to make them better, whether they're printed on aluminum and one of one. You have to do things to make the substitute for that original. Right. So digital artists have that intrinsic problem at the high end, but at the low end, prints are the most important thing. That's what you have to have, an affordable way. And in your most popular selling SKUs, you got to have things that relate, that show your best work.
Yeah, I know a lot of people when they're starting out, especially very early when they're selling art, is figuring out that price range kind of thing. Was that difficult for you to, when you first went to that farmer's market, be like, yeah, my art's worth this much? Or were you kind of like, because you had a little bit of the marketing background and stuff, were you kind of like, no, this is kind of what it's going for, so I feel confident in that?
Yes and yes, and no and no. The good part was I tried to make sure that I wasn't sitting on originals. Mm-hmm. Ever. I didn't want to have from day one, I was always like, I'm going to sell my originals. I'm not going to be the guy who holds on to them for 5 years because they're going to be worth more. I'm a functioning, if I want to be a full-time artist or even a part-time artist, you have to sell originals if you have them. You got to have that price point. So I came out with if I have 5 pieces, this is the price point they go to. Okay, those are selling pretty quick and I'm making more. It's nice and even. I always have 10 pieces and kind of kept crab walking that 10 pieces. Okay, make them go up more because they're going too fast. I got to slow that down. So I kind of let the market tell me what I can make and let it grow and grow and grow. And, I can't afford me now. I totally understand that. When I have collectors who bought a piece 12 years ago, who the zero's missing from the price tag, they're happy because they're like, well, we got in early. Mm-hmm. But, I could charge more, but I don't want them to stack up. I don't want to sit on 50 originals. I want things to move and to be, keep growing. And have some kind of affordable art people can have. That's why I do pen and inks and stuff like that too, is because I want
to. We have a doggo.
I knew he'd come in at some point.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll be on the show too. So this is Pliskin of the snake variety.
Oh, God, you're awesome. I appreciate that naming so much. You have no idea.
So it's one of those things where I let the market tell me how much things should be, kind of grow and because again, there's that ego of, I've seen artists who charge a ton and have been out for a year, selling work. So it's, let them build up. But for me, it's been just let the market tell me what it should be and don't have a closet full of originals. Let them, for me, it's keep that nice number and let it tell me what I should be rather than let ego or what does this guy sell for? I know that's the most common question all new artists have. And if you had to give them a ballpark, you start at $300. Like that's like my ballpark. There you go. This is $300. You start there, go from that. Have something. You got to start somewhere. In the beginning, you won't want to see those paintings 10 years from now. You're going to grow. You're going to evolve in your style. Have them move. Keep making art. Learn something from each piece, but keep making more. Don't hold on to them. The more you make, the easier it is to let go. easier it is to learn and move forward. And you just got to make more art. That's the key to all of it.
No, that's great advice. I think a lot of people, especially when they're starting out, they kind of struggle with the sticking to the price point as well. Where I feel like some people are like, I don't think I'm worth that much, so I'm going to lower it. And then, but I think, like you said, if you're going based off of what's selling, then if you're selling it for a decent price and people are picking it up, then why are you going to shortchange yourself? You know, regardless of your years of painting or whatever it is, you could have 1 year of skill versus someone that has 20 years. But if people are liking your stuff, they're liking your stuff.
Exactly. You can sell it, whatever you can sell it for, if you can sell it for that, then, and keep firm to that. Keep grow with that. Be proud of your work. If you've sold it for that before, then stay with those prices. Don't start cutting prices to move things. And it goes back to our early conversation about, you know, when you're trying to make the art artificially float your life, you know, and you're worrying about what's going to sell, and you start making things to sell. It's a slippery slope that can really make it difficult for an artist to try and, your collectors don't like seeing that. You know, if someone buys your stuff for, you know, $500, and all of a sudden they see $200 originals, well, why are those 200? Why did I pay 5? I'm not gonna pay 5 for the next one then. You know, it's just, you gotta think of it, you know, think like a collector. Take pride in you. What would they want to see? You know, be proud of yourself. Would they be happy to see you sell like that? You know, you have to kind of play both sides to grow in the right direction and think about everything you do, because it has repercussions later on.
Right. Chris out of chat wants to know if you still take on commissions.
So I right now am booked 2 years out. So we're not taking anything on until we kind of get caught up. Some of the licensing stuff and other outside stuff has kind of crowded my time. So it just isn't something now that we can even get to. So we try and, again, I encourage you, send me an email. People can always ask, and we can kind of figure out where things are. But it's closed at this point because we're just not having enough of me. Believe it or not, not enough to go around. But it's. I hope to get back to where we can open again. But as of right now, it's closed out. It's too much. It's too much work.
It's got to be exciting, though. You know.
Oh, it's awesome to. It sucks to say, but it's awesome that that's the problem. You know, it's like, oh, I can't take your money because people want to give me money from somewhere else. You know, it's the way it is.
For having it be your career and what you love to do, it's a good problem to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would wait the 2 years. In a year and a half, I'm going to look and see if things open up personally.
So you can start saving now, so you'll be ready to go.
There you
Absolutely
go.
right. Yeah. I'll hit tax season right there, and boom, portion of that tax return, hide into that shoe box, and we'll be good to go. No. Actually, I wanted to ask a part of the tips and technique. A few of the artists in the community and a lot of people are starting to get back more into traditional art. The line work that you do is just so unique and just gorgeous how it flows through each piece. Is there any tips or suggestions that you could give to a traditional artist that might be starting out?
The first thing is definitely to try all the mediums. And once you kind of have that, I always tell someone, if they want to show your art, you want to be a painter, and you don't have any style direction, you're starting off from scratch, do 50 paintings. You don't want to hear that. I know, it sucks. Do 50 paintings. You can copy the first 10. It doesn't matter. Pick art you like, paint that. But paint 50 paintings. Because once you get through to that 48, 49, 50, you'll start to be who you are. You'll start to understand what you like. You'll start to know the subject matter, your technique. That's the piece you start. The piece 51 is the one you start showing people. You know, that's who you are. But you got to get all the crap starting up stuff out of the way that we all go through, the copying other artists, the easy stuff. You got to get that all out of the way to get to who you are. And you have to have the patience to want to do that. And people sometimes don't want to hear that. They just want to, I got Instagram. Why am I going to wait? I'm an artist, you know, and I get that because it's fun. You want to be that, but you got to, for long-term success, you got to take the time to build a foundation so the house goes like this, not like this. You know, you want to basically have a steady base where you can learn, I could jump to different mediums. You can jump to different, you know, from sculpting to painting. You can do those jumps because you've taken the time to try and be shitty at all of them. You know, you got to take the time to be bad at things.
Oh man, we need to keep that saying. Take the time to be bad at things. I love that. That's actually fantastic advice. And I wish I had heard that 10 years ago, you know, when I was in high school, kind of dabbling in art and stuff, because I always liked art. But like you said, that to me, as someone at that age, that's fantastic advice.
It is, and it's tough because teachers that I had too, academic art is very different than you know, real world art. I wish we could get more artists in, you know, doing talks, and I try, and whenever I can, I go to high schools and speak, because I want to share real world versus I do artist in residency every September at Disney at the Wonderground Gallery, and the kids that come in there, because there's a bunch of animation schools right around there, and they come in and they're so freaked out, and they're like, oh my God, my teacher says I need this, I gotta have that, I'm not gonna have it, I'm not gonna be able to do this, all I want to do is work for Disney. And I'm like, whoa, let's breathe. Here, have my seat, sit at my easel for a second. You gotta relax, okay? Disney, there's more out there, don't freak yourself out. Also, just have a good base. Here's the things you got to work on, and try and basically talk them down from the ledge that academia is kind of built around them. And you got to have this thing for the course and this for your portfolio. And those are all good things, but there's real world versus, you know, academic. And sometimes that gets blurred from people who are absent from that, but teaching art. You know, there's traditional skills that will always apply, but you have to have real world voices, new ones that are there now, channeling what's going on to let you know what it's like. You know, I graphic design degree, I got more from talking to designers who came in for a day than I got from a semester with a teacher, because they just talk to you in the real world way. You know, they'll use real phrases. They'll, like in academic, they'll be like, you collect things to this and do this, and they use the wrong terminology that no one uses in the real world. You've got to have the real world terminology from art, from design. You got to have real world experience, and, like, you know, be bad at stuff. That's some things that a teacher might not say.
That's a great point.
Irresolute mentioned in chat. He said sucking at something is the first step to being good at something.
I'm good at something.
That's great.
Irresolute is a really talented artist as well. His canvas work is fantastic throughout the community, and he knocks it out of the park every time. He's a great guy too. Probably one of the funniest guys I've heard in a long time.
Do you feel like your audience, most of the artists are digital? Is that pretty much the swing? Is, you know, 70-30 to traditional, or is it really?
When we started, sorry, I'm just kind of interrupting here, but when we started, I really felt like it was going to be 90% traditional, and 90% digital, and I'm really pleasantly surprised how many people still do traditional work.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see, actually.
It's weird to watch I've been doing this for a while, so I've seen the shift where, you know, my girlfriend and I will talk about, you know, am I going to be like this weirdo who does traditional stuff, you know, in 10, 20 years? Like, will people not value originals because there aren't any other ones out there? It's weird, you know, as things grow, you never know. In 30 years, is the guy painting in the corner with a candle a weirdo? Nobody wants that anymore. To see things change so much so quickly. I mean, Procreate is literally, I mean, all I see now is illustrations, like time-lapse illustrations. You know how hard it was to do time-lapse illustration 5 years ago? Like camera setups and lights, and you had Premiere running over here, and you had to, you know, you couldn't just do it with your phone.
Technology.
I had 2 video cameras from other angles. Oh, it was a mess. Now it's like, hold on, my phone, hyperlapse, done.
And it's really amazing too. We had a 3D designer come on, and what he could do just on the fly is just absolutely incredible nowadays with the technology that's available. I mean, there's things available now that 2 years ago wasn't a thing, and it's really helped some of those people that are coming from kind of like a graphics design background, or you know, less traditional background, maybe started with traditional but have grown and developed into utilizing the digital form more for their styles and just accessibility than you would back in the past.
It's amazing. Just again, I used to build intros in Flash, you know, or, you know, that's how long.
Gosh.
You know, that was cutting edge. Like I had a, you know, special weekend class to learn that. You know?
That's funny.
No, you really are a jack of all trades too, because you've dabbled in virtually everything. Like you were saying earlier,
I've made a lot of mistakes and a lot of stuff. That's what that means. I've been shitty at a lot of things, like we said.
you know what? You found what you loved, and you got there through going through all of that. And I mean, just the knowledge that you've gained from all those things and being able to apply them now is just incredible. I didn't know that you did all the intros and all that stuff yourself, and just I can't even begin to start where you start and where you end. I mean, it's endless.
Well, again, the idea is I realized quickly that before social media was as big as it is, that you had to be your own marketing person as an artist. That was important. You know, I know artists who don't answer emails or don't answer comments to their own Instagrams. There's just things they do. I'm like, why? We're so fortunate now that, again, one of the amazing things about being an artist, so in England to graduate, I believe it's high school level, you have to do a paper, like a thesis paper on an artist. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten tons of kids, like, I'm doing a paper on you, can you answer a few questions? I'm like, that's amazing. You could reach out to an artist that you like and ask them questions. That's unbelievable. It's like, me sending Larry Bird, my 12-year-old self sending Larry Bird hey, how do I shoot a jump shot question? It's that kind of connectivity that didn't exist for us. But I can watch an artist that I love now at my age, watch them work. It's just, we're so blessed to be able to be around that kind of stuff. This is amazing in that way, where they have the interaction with fans. It's overwhelmingly positive. For any bad thing, there's 100 good things. It's just really amazing. I sound like grandpa talking about the internet again.
No, it's actually really true, because Aaron Blaze is one of the artists that I grew up kind of idolizing, and you can direct message him on Twitter and he responds to you now. It's like, hold on, time out. Like, this is someone where, like, you watch The Lion King and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they, animate this thing? And then the guy who animated it is like, hey, what do you want to know?
If I could send LOLs to Bob Ross when I was watching his thing, that's amazing. Like, that, yeah. I never had that opportunity.
Oh my goodness! Imagine if Bob Ross had if he were still
like an actual Twitch channel.
Oh.
Bob Ross does have a Twitch channel, and he gets about 2,000 viewers every time.
No, I know, but can you imagine if he was live painting those to where he could interact with Twitch chat? People would lose their minds.
Oh, Jesus.
Or he'd never finish that happy tree because he'd be too busy talking with everybody.
Finish nothing.
Person to talk to.
Oh, that's funny.
So in the chat, Chris has a question that's, is there anything I would change about my journey? Mm-hmm. And that's a good question. It's funny because while there's 100 things I want to change, you have to learn all these mistakes. You got to learn some of learn your own value, your own worth, your own direction, your own morals, like what guides you, what's important to you. There's not a lot I would take out of that mix. I think, having a nice slow growth as an artist is the best way you can do it. When you have the big peaks, reality shows, TV things that have come through our past as opportunities aren't opportunities always. There's just things that don't work, that you get this big false peak just means it's farther to fall. There's nothing underneath it. So for me, growing slowly and making those mistakes and working with different companies, good and bad, you need those mistakes. You need those experiences. And my journey, I just wish I would have started earlier and not taken, 9 years off before I started painting after college. That's probably my biggest fear, my biggest regret, probably.
Yeah.
Is not jumping in. I tell everybody, jump in, start, have a sketchbook with you at your job and do it at lunch. If you, it doesn't have to be your career, but if you care about that is your relaxing place and is freeing, then just keep that book with you. And every piece isn't a finished piece. Scribble. Just keep that part of the brain alive.
That's a great point right there too. Love that. Tyler, Ruby, any more questions about, any tips or suggestions?
Yeah, I have one. Do you ever make mistakes? Like, your canvas pieces are very line art heavy. What happens? Like, does someone shove you by accident? What do you do? Do you start over?
I get bumped all the time because I live paint in the front of my booth, so I get bumped. People kick my easel. It happens a lot. And my big stupid hand, I use a tiny little brush and it'll flip and the brush will hit those all happen. And those are, to steal the phrase, happy accidents, and you got to deal with them. And I've never wiped a painting. I never walked away from a painting. I can fix everything. If I make a mistake over here, make the same mistake over here. I think that's what being a professional is just being able to hide the mistakes better. That's like the sole difference is not being afraid of them. They happen. Okay, how can I fix it? Okay, that's a bummer, but with my line work, maybe a shadow changes and now that's all black right there. It's just finding ways to blend it, make it work. And it's my fault for being out there, next to the kettle corn and the hot dogs. It's gonna happen. Oh, I know how this is. It's
all about the mini donuts.
Exactly. So but to be out there with people and be on the street, I value that more than any risk, and I can fix anything after everything's happened. So you just kind of learn to not be afraid of that and again, just fix what happens, and that's a professional, I guess.
Yeah.
Like when you were newer at doing this stuff, did you have issues with like steady hand, just making lines clean?
Definitely, and that's what enamel gave me. Because before, I imagine that piece that Joe showed, like lever action, that would be done. I would do all the line work in acrylic, and that would require me to go over the lines a couple times to get that completely opaque feeling that I was looking for. When I found enamel, it's one and done. I mean, it's one stroke and I'm on to the next thing. So there's no need to go back. There's no need. My lines can be super, super thin because I don't need to go over them 3 times with acrylic like I used to. So that kind of gave me the ability to just move faster and kind of craft, in that way. And that's why I say try everything, because that was the freeing moment where I was like, oh, finally, that's what I've been trying to do for 2 years. This is what I needed.
Interesting. So all your line work, that's enamel. Your line work is enamel?
Yep. Yeah, it's a pinstripers paint like you see on cars when they do all the filigree and designs. It's a sign painter's paint. Yeah, it's called One Shot. It's been used for 100 years, but it's basically the same stuff. When you see the hot rods with the designs on them, that's all the same kind of paint. And that I found that doing hot rod and tiki shows years ago, and was like, oh, okay. And that just kind of freed me to unleash almost.
Oh, that's so cool. So can you find that in an art store? Enamel paint?
Yeah. So Blick carries it, online, and usually in their stores too. They carry it. Most Michaels won't. Those kind of stores won't. But you can find, in
like
Blick,
a proper art store.
Yeah, proper art store. Yeah, and there's enamel. It's a yellow can is the most traditional brand. There's a couple other brands of enamel, but again, it dries to a complete shine. So all my work has to be clear coated. There's obviously, it's a nightmare to work with. All the downsides. There's no fixing it. There's no taking it off. Like when it's down, it is down. It's one of those things where it is learn by fire, because when you make a line, all those OLED lines, they're there. They're not coming off.
Fascinating. Another question. Do you do color first and then you do the enamel outlining?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the whole background. Grab. Please hold. So background, have to see in there. You can kind of see. So this is a color background. So I'll do all the aging. I kind of know what it's going to be, what it's for. The sketch is already done. So I do all the background first, and then the next stage I'll take the printed out drawing and trace it on here with graphite transfer paper. So I have a bit of chalk line where everything is, and then that's when I go in and do all the gouache and carve it all out. Lost my sound.
Oh my goodness.
But for me, it's like a roadmap to where I'm going. So it's like once it's traced on there, it's like, okay, game on. We're painting. Let's get ready here. It's happening now.
It's kind of awesome because the way you paint is the way a lot of digital artists work as well, in the layers like that. So it's kind of cool how yours directly translates the same way almost.
Yeah, building the layers, same way tattoo artists see things. I mean, there's a lot of shared, the line work like that. It's a lot of shared or crossover for sure.
Mm-hmm. Any tattoo artists listening, there you go.
Yes, and I have a folder on my desktop of almost 500 at this point. So from day one with the line art like I do, it's been tattooed everywhere. So it's amazing. People come by and they'll pull their shirt off, and this is just a sleeve or a chest piece, or it's amazing. So I have none.
Have you ever done artwork for someone's tattoo? Like
I did tons when I started. Yeah, when I started, I did all kinds of now again with the commissions, not I can't anymore. But I did all kinds of designs at the beginning, which is great to kind of get me that personal connection again, like we talked about earlier with the military stuff. Tattoos are very personal. When they want your style with their message and stories interwoven. It's a very personal moment to share with someone to draw up. It's kind of a neat experience.
First, asked another question. Do you feel painting is your way of keeping your mental health on focus, or plays any part of it?
Chris gets no more questions. He's asked too many.
They're good questions, though.
They are good. It's a good thing he's good, because Joe's just failing here. So at least Chris is keeping the show alive. Okay. But no, I think for sure. I mean, for my mental health and focus is this is what I do. This is what I want to do. It just helps me keep happy. And no, don't apologize, Chris. I'm just joking with you. It's totally cool. Your questions are the best. But it keeps happy and engaged. For me, it's completely linked. When I don't paint for a while, I get edgy. I miss it. I need to have that interaction. I need that quiet time to kind of relax. So it's a hand in hand. I mean, if I was to go, when I travel, that's why I keep that sketchbook with me, because I get super antsy because I'm being bombarded with all these images and sculptures. And because I love to go to, when I travel internationally, if you see my Instagram stream, seeing dead people is what I do. Cemeteries, charnel houses, ossuaries, churches, bone houses. That's what I go see. That's what I'm amazed with. I love to see how different cultures honor their dead, how they're treated and after. So when I'm in these places, these beautiful churches or the crypts, I'm blown away by the imagery. All I want to do is paint. So I keep that book with me so I can, do work on the road, because I get antsy. I need that release. It's my quiet time. It's my, how I relax is to do work.
That's a good point.
Now, have you looked into any of the not particularly South America part, or not particularly the Mexican part, but the South American way that they I'm sorry, I'm trying to form it in my head on the fly. No, how you said you visit graveyards and crypts and various other things. Have you looked into the South American cultures with the way that I think it was
like Bolivia?
Bolivia, like I'm thinking of like back in like pre Aztec, and I think it was like the Pinkets culture, the way that they handled their dead with like caves and stuff. I'm gonna pull
the mummies.
Yeah.
The mummy caves. Yeah, and again, South America, Mexico is amazing how different in different quadrants they're treated. Again, that's how I live to travel. That's for me. Like that's the tour. That's the travel show I want to see. I don't want to see the cruise. I don't want to see sunsets and beaches. I want to see, oh, you're dead people. Where are they?
Well, really, I think one of the greatest places in the United States is actually in Louisiana, down in oh gosh, it's the big city. I'm having a brain fart right now. Down not Baton Rouge, Mardi Gras there every year.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, thank you. I'm flustered. It's really hot in this office.
You're going downhill.
I'm telling you, you know what? My brain's pretty quick, but when it gets hot in this office, I started losing track of things.
I feel like all the shows I've seen have been edited now, and it's not the real thing at all. I feel like it's still false goods.
No. It's just you're making me flustered, David. No. No, but I love the culture that you see down in New Orleans with the crypts and the mausoleums and everything. I mean, there's it's just so vast and diverse between each individual one. I mean, a good point of just being in America, it embodies so many different world traditions and different cultures in just a particular, in one spot in a graveyard. You're going to see a lot of that, in a lot of different ones. And I love how you get down farther into Mexico, that's brought tenfold, because they celebrate their dead, where some cultures don't really keep that going.
Yeah, it's
What was
it's funny
probably
because
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no,
It's funny because that we'll just keep over talking. That Louisiana part you talk about is a great example. So typically those big mausoleums, that French style usually of those Gothic mausoleums and such. When I travel, we were in Paris and in some of Eastern Europe. I feel like the United States is almost where the end of that journey took place. And as you follow their traditions more and more to where they came from, everything gets grander. You see the more detailed mausoleums. You see whole cemeteries of just mausoleums. That kind of Louisiana feel is what all French monasteries look like. I mean, all French cemeteries. It's amazing to see. Like we're seeing the end of the road here, because usually when someone passes away in the States, their traditions, culture, religion is usually captured with that, how their marker is. If they're Jewish, they may have the star on there, or they may have just ties to other parts of their culture. And as you follow their culture, when people are closer to where they're from directly, you get more and more, not the watered down version. That's a bad word, but not the distant version. You get the home version, and that's why I love traveling to see. It helps me understand so much more of here when I travel and see, the origins of these places and travel around. And again, I'm a huge fan of travel because nothing makes you understand more who you are and what you're around than seeing everything else. It's really a fascinating way to kind of, like I said, Louisiana, it makes so much more sense to me. I'm like, oh, that's how it's tied together. I've seen this, these styles of grids and these grates and this style of shapes of mausoleums and the columns, the posts. It's really a fascinating way to kind of feed that. Now my house has become a sanctuary and also a skeleton. I have some heads in my house.
Yeah.
There's some human heads. That's what it is. Doesn't everybody have them? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You got like a couple around here, probably.
The
It's an old house
on the counter.
No. Now, being interested and involved with sculpting, I know you're working on a piece right now, but when you visit these graveyards and different cemeteries, when you see not just the marker but the grand chiseled, like oh gosh, what are they called? What's the traditional name of them? It's not the marker, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the monument.
The monument. Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Just down the road from me, there's a really amazing Polish cemetery, and just cruising by it, and I actually go over by it almost daily. There are some amazing monuments of large angels that are 10, 15, 20 feet high. When you see something like that, does that help tie it all together, and like, do you gain any inspiration from seeing like those monuments as well, along with seeing the columns and everything?
Tremendously. Like again, I said that being in those cemeteries, it's the details I also am drawn to. Like a lot of the way they'll draw angels. So a lot of Puritan style in this country. Being from New England, I was exposed to lots of Puritan style where the wings are very simplistic and the face is usually a cherub style. As you travel deeper and deeper, before the Puritans, you get more of the skull. You get that more of that. 1700s, you get more in England. You get, skulls. Some of these charnel houses have a giant skull on the door. I mean, it's just the way these are done. But the monuments, the style, I'm so inspired when I go to these cemeteries. I take thousands of pictures because seeing things I know, torches that are upside down to light the afterlife. When I see those details of things I've studied in front of me, it's just like I said, it's a full thing coming together. It's like, oh, that's that thing that I do that I love. It's like all the things are getting pieced together. It's why I love to travel so much. It's why cemeteries, charnel houses, and churches, those are all on my list of why I go to these places, because I'm like, show me what you got. Let me go. I'm going to see you. I want to see your experience. It may not be my religion or my beliefs at all, but it's important to you. So therefore, it's important for me to see.
It's a great way of thinking about it.
Do you have a favorite?
For the places I've been, for like the yes, in Italy, in Naples, there is a cemetery, and it is called, oh man, of course, I'll post it somewhere. La Fontanelle. It's in Naples. So it is a lot of the plague victims from the churches when the churches were overrun. We're basically moved to this World War II bodies removed from all around. We're moved to this giant underground cave. It's like a giant A-frame when you're inside of it. It's probably 60 feet tall, and you walk through, and there's just skulls lined up, and there's 50,000, and they're just lined up, and there's just so many of them. But then they're also in these beautiful little boxes. Now, because there's no cemetery for these skulls, but they were moved at a time where people knew the names of these skulls. It was just a pile of unnamed skulls. Like the name of the person would be there. It's like a beautiful, like ornate little church, niche. So maybe it's 2 feet high. Maybe there's 2 skulls in there, and it's a husband and wife. But it's this beautiful little mini moment of their life captured in the afterlife together. So a family of skulls might be in a 4 box, but they're beautiful, and there's some beads or coins left by the family, but they're hand carved with dates of it, and just like this beautiful remembrance that will just sit here and be brought, turned back to dust in this area. And as you're walking around, there's no guards, there's no anything. You walk in, they let you in, and you just wander around, and the light comes in from a hole cut in the top, and it just kind of shines down. It's really, there's no religious feel to it because it's not a church. It's not as dark and dingy as the catacombs in Paris or some kind of crypt.
I was thinking that was in my mind.
Yeah. But imagine the catacombs, but more lit and with like mini little altars. If you go through my Instagram feed, my Facebook, and you just search Italy or just Naples skulls, that post will come up. It's a pictures will come up from it. But it's just an amazing kind of capture some of those little things. While you ask another question, I will find one because it's important enough for you. It'll summarize my whole inspiration, kind of.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem. It's fun to talk about. This is kind of like, what I love to talk about and do.
No, we definitely appreciate it. And thank you so much for picking on me as much as you do.
It's kind of my thing.
These guys are quiet about it. They're just like, you're fine, Joe. But it's funny when somebody actually starts getting on me because it makes me focus more.
No, it's supposed to be quiet. Uh-oh.
Now, one of the most quiet people that is on is Ruby, and Ruby does this segment because I always pick on her for this segment to do it because I love Ruby. Ruby's great. Ruby, do you want to bring us into the next question?
Yeah, I got this. So, you are pretty hardcore with all your stuff. I mean, it's what you do. It's your art. So obviously time is very important, and it's also a resource and sometimes a tool. How do you manage it? How do you manage your time for your projects? Like,
I wait to the last minute. No.
Procrastinator. I knew it. No.
It's tough. I will procrastinate because I know how long it takes to do things. That's probably my weakness. I try to fix that. The hardest part for time management is just, if you care about it enough, you have to invest the time. There's no artist block. You don't get to have that. You don't get to, if you can't think of what to draw, then you go download a picture and get better at something. Just draw it. Take your brain out of it and just work on technique. There's things you have to learn to overcome. If you want to do this professionally, you have to sacrifice. You have to make time. It's not going to just come to you where people go, oh, you should draw today for 2 hours. We're going to leave you alone. Never going to happen. You have to find ways to care and make it a priority. And it needs to be whatever you want it to be in your life. If you want to just draw when you have fun, then that's great. Do that. But if you want to do this big and make money and have a career, you have to invest the time and effort and sacrifice. You got to put a priority list together and what's important. You got to make sure there's time for all, but you're going to have to draw late at night. You're going to have to draw on your lunch break. You're going to have to find those times. There's no magic bullet. It's like, people ask, how'd you lose all that weight? You're like, when you start telling them all the work, they're like, I was looking for a pill. Okay, I'll ask somebody else. They don't want that. It just takes prioritizing and sacrifice. That's the ways that it is, and finding how much of your life and what that equals is personal to each person, but that's where it starts.
Do you give yourself a certain amount of time for each piece?
No,
you just let it run
naturally. I know how. The good thing about me is because with the enamel, the line work goes from right to left. When I'm here at the other side, it's done. Like I don't go back. I make sure it's good when I'm there, and when I'm finished at the side, that painting is finished, and now it's on to the next painting. And I'm very methodical in that way. That when I'm painting, work because I've done all the legwork with the sketches and the research and the stories. This is the mechanical aspect. This is the, connect A to B, be creative, but in a zone, there's no like, maybe I'll draw a third arm over here. This has all been pre-flighted. This is what my brain's painting, and for me, that's the work. It's that work ethic of like, this is the time to paint. This is what you're here for. This is what you do. If I don't want to be in a cubicle, this is what I do. So get after it and stop crying. It's kind of, and I'm the same way. I get, I don't want to do stuff, and it happens. But learning to push through those moments, as you start when you're a beginning artist, is just keep working. You're frustrated. You don't get to be frustrated and take 2 weeks off if you don't want to draw. You can if you don't want to ever do more, and it's just for you, that's fine. But if you want to push this out and be professional, you have to sacrifice and push through those times. Learn that effort. Talk to people. I know most artists are petrified to be out there and be live painting in front of people, and it is intimidating. But after you do it a few times, you realize that connection is so much more valuable than any kind of petty insecurities you might have. Balance them with what you get out of it. Learn to share, learn to gain strength from people talking to you and sharing what they love about what you're doing. What's more empowering than people telling you, I love what you do? You're not going to find a better feedback in your life than that. It's learning to make positive waves, through that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you give yourself, like, because you do it full time, do you say every day 8 to 10 hours is dedicated to work and painting, or do you kind of say, I only have 4 hours today and maybe I have 16 hours tomorrow, or whatever it may be? Do you break it up that way?
I'm less structured than I should be. I have looming deadlines. Like, example today, I knew I had to finish a sculpture so I could move on to the next one. So I knew it would take about 3 hours. That was what I planned to do. But that was just planned last night. It wasn't like I planned 2 weeks ago that I'd be sculpting for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't paint as much in the studio as on the road. I'm probably 70% on the road painter, 30% in the studio. Just because at home I'm doing the business. Like, I have licensing contracts and gathering images and regular contracts and royalties and basically corporate projects here and there. Those things, and emails, getting back to people, shipping out orders. The day-to-day art is basically the biggest chunk. The non-attractive part of art career is basically the biggest chunk of my day. It's doing all that kind of stuff. And I'll waste 2 hours on the internet on a wild goose chase because I have some idea of a painting, and that's kind of, I don't plan for that. It just happens. My schedule is very liquid in that way at this point in my career, where I know Comic-Con's coming. I know I have to prepare 3 or 4 paintings. That's in my head, and that's all this week. Once I get this stuff done, as of Wednesday, that has to be what happens next. And that's kind of as structured as I get at this point in my career. I don't put the paint 5 hours, paint 10 hours, because that's a way that sucks life out of you sometimes. The good thing is having this all set up so I can sit down and start painting immediately. That's the biggest key to an artist I would recommend, is having a space that's yours that can stay set up so you can sit down and paint for an hour, 10 hours, or 5 minutes. Because when I didn't have that, setting up all my stuff would just kill my motivation. Just an hour of setting up all my paints and all my junk, I don't want to paint after that. I want to sit down sometimes, and just bang out something, or get up in the middle of the night because I want to finish something. You got to have a space that's yours to kind of be creative in.
That's actually a tip that I don't think we've heard on the show yet, is having a dedicated space for art. It's not really something I would have necessarily thought of. But you're right. There are plenty of times when I've gone and only drew for 10 minutes because I was tired of setting everything up before I did it.
Yeah, the jump in, it's when I built my wood shop for building frames, that was a huge moment because I used to drag it all to the driveway. And just dragging saws and wood, Jesus, it's just too much. I can jump in, hammer a couple nails, leave it set up there, leave it. Having those spaces is the biggest tip I can give to staying engaged, because you can't leave it on the kitchen table. You can't reset up every time, everything around you. This way, it could be tiny. It could just be a desk, but at least your stuff can stay, and your little easel can stay there when your motivation gets. You don't have to. There's no barrier. Again, all about taking away excuses, things things to make yourself fail. You got to remove those things. If you know that you're hard setting up or you're a procrastinator, get rid of things that allow you to get out of it.
Chris just commented, said he should do motivational speeches.
I know. It's a sound
motivational speeches for artists.
Side jobs.
when you do, speaking of, it just piqued a question in my mind. When you do travel to Comic Cons and art conventions and expos, do you ever speak on panels?
I haven't. We've kind of been an alternative artist. I've kind of flown outside the radar of a lot of that stuff. It's funny. We have some meetings and stuff with companies at Comic Con that I'm excited to talk to. But the ego in me is like, why have you waited so long to talk to me? I've been here forever. We've kind of just been in our own world. I don't do group shows. I don't do, some of the design things for us kind of thing. So I'm kind of in my world. So unless you come into day-to-day world, you don't know, may probably not see my work. So for us, being on the outside, we're not involved in a lot of that kind of stuff. And by my own fault, I'm probably more distant from the art community of artists than I should be, just because you get in your own hole of, making this machine work. And I love this kind of interaction because I don't get to share this much because this is all just stocked up inside of me, but not something I share often because it's just not, I don't seek a lot of venues out to do that. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm like this, I would gladly, schools, and I love talking like that, and panels. Whoever asks, I do. It just hasn't been something I've done a ton of. From the panel side, schools, I've done a bunch, and that is so rewarding. I love being able to, shatter young minds early. It's just kind of a way that to involve that way. But panels, I think I've done an official panel ever.
I really do think that in the future, maybe one will pop up that I think people and aspiring artists would really get a lot out of hearing some of these stories and this and that shared, live in that setting. Oh wow!
Yeah.
What have I done?
There should be an exit.
Whatever you did, it's awesome.
I was trying to share the picture. Damn it.
Yeah.
No, you're doing.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Oh, so there it is.
Oh my goodness.
Let me see.
So imagine there's just hundreds of these, all around. So it's really just to see these little. To me, this is so intimate, because they're just. I mean, to see the little, the jewelry hanging down and the obvious dead flowers from years of of being offered there, and the coins. It's just a very personal, just beautiful. And this is the kind of thing that really inspires me. And I, like you talk about, am I inspired traveling? I must have taken 1,000 pictures in Fontenelle of just all this amazing videos. It just was so overpowering. This is probably the most amazing place I've been for what I love to see. Just not able to put in words. Really an amazing time.
That's crazy.
That is actually gorgeous. Just seeing it, hearing you describe it, and I know I've seen some of these images in the past. But seeing them now after describing them and just seeing how they're positioned and the little shrine the marble that it's made out of, or the limestone that it's carved out of, I can't really tell what it is, but they have a place where they can celebrate their loved ones right there. They can light candles, leave this, it's named, they're all together. It's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, it's like all these emotions all wrapped into one. It's beautiful, it's grotesque, it's scary, it's wonderful. It's like it's so much is in there, and it's really up to how. To me, it's like a mirror that all your own personal reflections are what I see when I see this. And I think this is a very personal experience to look at, because how you view death, how you view your family, how you view those things, is what you go to. There's not much there. It's a couple skulls with in a small altar, but it's a symbol of their whole life, and it makes you look at your whole life. And that's why I love searching around and seeing all these altars and the places that I go, because I think it's so purifying to see and realize that no one gets out alive. This is how it is. It always helps me that basically live every day, because it could be over tomorrow, and this is just reminders of that.
True. And I love how you've captured the detail in the that you might not have caught just by looking at the mass image of an area like that, but zooming in, you would see the rosaries, tied around. And I mean, a loved one put that there for them.
Incredibly personal.
And the coins that were on top of the skulls. You won't see that in very many cemeteries or mausoleums or this and that, but that culture believed almost, it makes me think of back in ancient Greece, where they would put the coins over the eyes, where I know some cultures still do that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I love to see that. It's a fun, for me, it's very introspective, but to see, it's so inspiring. Like I said, I just want to create art. I'm in those areas. I can't wait to get home. It's like, okay, let's wrap this trip up. I got to do stuff. I got to make things. It's all in my head. It's got to get out.
Yeah.
Now, there was another question. This is, kind of going back a little bit, but somebody asked, how did you learn to build frames? Because you talk about how you have an entire room of just old frames that you put them together. How did you learn to build them?
So I learned quickly that doing the amount of work I was making, just going to get a gold gilded frame from Michael's was a cop-out, because the whole wall was just the same frames, and these stories were so different. I'm like, well, I can't have the same frame around different stories. It doesn't make sense to me. And because the work is so primal, rustic, it kind of fit where I made it easy for me to. I used to carve tikis. I had a kind of a working hobby knowledge, I guess, and I said, okay, I want to capture that feeling of the painting. And can I make my own frames? And they were very simple in the beginning, just kind of stained and small trinkets. And as I started to get better and better and at relaying the message from the paintings, it became more exciting to me. It's almost like the painting is one part of it, but when it's done, we're not done yet. The second part is telling the story, finishing the story with the frame. And I just basically kind of built and spent time learning. And I spent some time with some crafters of Mexican furniture, the rustic antiquing they did, and just kind of, and everything from traditional special effects guys. I mean, I've kind of dabbled in everything from faux metal to all these different little skills and tested out and just played with them and kind of made these little frames, and they got bigger and bigger. And over the years, it's become where I don't frame anything anymore. I don't buy any frames. I use the vintage rustic. The rustic ones, reclaimed ones for the small stuff, but all the big stuff's made custom for the pieces, and it becomes a secondary art project almost, where I don't carve tikis anymore, but this fills that woodworking gap, that I used to do. So just trial and error and kind of learning what supplies, and I always think of myself, that's like the Disney part of my job, like the Imagineer. Like if you were waiting for like your lever action, if you were at the waiting line for the lever action ride, what would the outside look like? What kind of props would be there? And that's kind of, to me, where my mind goes when I'm building a frame for a piece. Like, what would the waiting line look like for this ride?
That's pretty cool. It reminds me of something I wanted to do with one of Brian Monkis's pieces with basically the arms are made out of like knives or whatever. So I wanted the frame to be a bunch of rusted knives kind of all welded together.
That's the benefit of that kind of cool art, that you could do that. Like, with my stuff being skeletons, no one's going to go, oh, that frame is just over the top. You've ruined it. It's too, because the artwork itself is so bold. If you like the artwork, the frame's only going to enhance that. I mean, there's only certain artworks that can do that. Like the knives is exactly what that piece needs. If you like the piece that's in there, the knives only make it better. And that's kind of what I look at it. It's like, that just enhances what's there. The frame shouldn't just be something that protects it. It should be part of the story. It's touching it. It touches it. It touches the painting its whole life. It's inherently part of it. It should be more than just something you went, I'll take 2 of those, 4 of those, 3 of the gold ones. It should be more thought into it.
Yeah. Well, even like when you go down to like the Fisherman's Wharf in San Diego, a lot of the artwork is framed by like life-saving buoys or, the old school anchor chains or something like that. So like you said, it's kind of cool because you start diving into the art before you even can get close enough to see it, because you see the frame.
Excuse me, exactly. And I've done, barnacles on my frames. I've done,